vein of um, the focus on the various ideas you can have, right? This book is really a book for like starters, right? People who don't know where to start. And it lists many ideas, not only in like the development of self and the planning, but also just like where you're going to start your business, right? So the first big section of the book I want to cover is financial intelligence. It's not the first section of the book, but it's just like in the presentation I'll be giving today, right? So first, there's this idea of the evolution levels of money, right? You want to think of money not as money, right? You want to think of resources, right? And at the start, he goes over like the four stages of like human development, right? Hunter gatherer, where they purely lived off of the land, they weren't tied to the land, and they gathered value from the land. And the physical cash that we hold today holds no value to them, right? Because it had nothing to do with their life. So their money, quote unquote, for them was the resources they could gather from the land. That then transitioned into an agrarian mindset where all of a sudden they're tied to the land because they can extract value from the land through the crops they grow on the land. And he mentions how this idea of how like the hunter gatherers who remained nomadic weren't as successful as those, right, who transitioned into the agrarian phase, and the population of the agrarian people blew up, right? But the hunter gatherers, those people, you don't see hunter gatherers all around today, right? Everyone is like settled down and they've stopped being nomadic, and it's just the reflection of that transition. And then there was another transition into the industrial era, right, where now you have these machines that are producing value, and you need to move again away from that agrarian mindset, right? And this happened again in history, right, where it was like early 1900s, right? Largely agrarian societies like Russia were at the back foot compared to highly developed industrial societies like Britain or Germany, because these countries didn't fully transition. The author is also saying additionally that you as an individual need to be aware of like these transitioning periods. And lastly, this movement from industrial to information era, that's where we are now, right? So there's a lot of like the industrial era mindset and like the industrial era framing for the way we've structured our society. But we need to acknowledge that we are now in an information era where information disseminates really quickly, and the way you can reframe yourself and the way you can financially set yourself up is very different from what you are taught in school, right? So that's the perspective. Don't think of money, think of resources, right? So next, there are a couple ideas. First is like the idea of places money hides, right? You want to extract value, and you can extract value in different ways. And there's just like a list of places money hides, like money hides in ideas, money hides in people, right? Money might hide in assets, right? But it's just like a list of places money hides, and you want to extract values from that. And additionally, the idea that life is tough, but it's a lot tougher when you're not paying attention, right? That transition from the industrial era to the information era, right? And then we also want to acknowledge that wealth is not just the dollar value of things, right? He talks about basically how there are $1 million means a completely different thing in Nigeria versus $1 million in America, right? And the wealth value of items is relative to the area you're in, relative to the situation you're in, right? So don't just get locked in on this thing costs XYZ USD, right? Look at the value in different situations and look at the value in different places, right? Additionally, the author talks about a John Hopkins case study, right, where basically they were looking at different people's financial backgrounds and different people's financial situations, and they predicted about like it was a group of about 100 African American boys, and they were saying based on the statistics of this area, like 70% of them will go to prison at some point, even if it's for a brief period of time. And then they came back after the fact and they realized it was like 2 or 3 out of the 100, not the 70% statistic they had come back to 20 years later, right? And they all trace this back to one person, right? One single teacher who had intervened in a lot of these boys' life. And that's where the book then transitions into this idea of mindsets, right? Where you need to have a mindset where this teacher had the mindset of, okay, I want to help these boys. I want to put these boys on a better path. And here, he wants you as the reader to have a mindset of investment in yourself, an investment in the financial situations that you are in, right? So that you can help yourself long term. So the next big section of the book to cover is wealth creation, right? And this is primarily like the ideas of how are you going to make value? How are you going to make money? And what ideas do other people use to make money that you can use or transition into, right? So first, I like this quote, right? There is a wealthy place. There's a path to that wealthy place. And discovering that path and taking that trip guarantees that you will get there. It is only a matter of time, right? It's only some people might take longer, some people might take shorter, but it is only a matter of time once you get on the path and you start the path, right? Chapter 13 additionally contains a lot of ideas just about wealth creation. And when I say ideas about wealth creation, it's just like different business formats, different sources of income, right? So that tying back to the idea I mentioned earlier, that this book is for people who are starting off, right? So you don't know what kind of business you want to create, or you don't know what kind of wealth creation avenues you want to create. So he lists off a lot of ideas for the reader. And I know a lot of other books have done this, but I like how it was like a clean cut, just like, okay, if you are in this situation, maybe this idea is relevant to you. And a lot of the ideas will not be relevant to a lot of the users. But the important part is that there will be an idea relevant to you. Adding on to that is the idea of diversification of income, right? Because having all your eggs in one basket isn't a good idea, right? If you work one job and all of your money is made from that one job, when you lose that one job, you lose all of your money, and you don't want to be dependent on just one source of income, right? Diversify your sources of income, and that's again investment. Invest to diversify your sources of income so that you're not as dependent on one source of income, and that allows you to pivot a lot easier to make money later, right? Because if you're not dependent on one source of income, you're willing to take a risk to further diversify your sources of income so that you can make more money rather than holding your one egg close, holding your basket close and keeping it all safe there, right? And the last idea in this wealth creation part is this idea that you need to budget well for your business and for yourself, right? Because a lot of the sources of struggle for individuals is just a mismanagement of money. So continuing on with the wealth creation section, there's this idea of good debt, bad debt, and a 5-year plan, right? So all of the biggest companies in the world achieve their size due to leveraging themselves to then grow, right? Because to grow initially, right? Think about like crops in a field, right? They don't just grow on their own magically, right? They extract nutrients from the ground, or they extract fertilizer from the farmer that places it there for them, right? But they don't grow from self, right? And that debt is a similar vein in that, right? You want to have good debt that allows you to grow your sources of income or allows you to grow yourself. And you want to avoid bad debt, right? What is bad debt? Bad debt are things like what? Credit cards, right? Gambling, right? Those sources of debt that do not allow you to grow, that instead hold you back, right? So focus on good debt, avoid bad debt. And then there's this 5-year plan for wealth. So he talked about how in like 1993, basically, he was struggling financially and he wanted to like break free, right? And he kept struggling, and it all came to a pass in about 1998. And there, the author basically he was like, okay, I need to turn my life, or I need to change my life, and I need to do better, right? And after developing himself, he came up with this 5-year plan, right? Where in the first year, you gather information about the situation you're in, or you gather information in general, right? The second year is where you take action, right? You do the things, you act on that information, and you develop yourself on that information. The third year is really important, right? Structure and system. Here you are looking at what you did in the past year and figuring out what worked and figuring out what didn't work so you can get off of those bad paths and stay on the good paths, right? The fourth year is the expansion year. You then expand on what you did in year 2 through the plan you created in year 3 to develop yourself more. And then finally, year 5 and plus is the freedom year, right? You reap the rewards of the effort that you put in. So the next big section I want to cover then is entrepreneurship, right? So entrepreneurship and this idea of the golden handcuffs. So the idea of the golden handcuffs really originated in like Silicon Valley tech startup wealthy programmers, right? So these individuals are making $300,000, $400,000 a year. They have incredible income from their jobs, well beyond what any average person would make, right? but they are fundamentally tied to their job. Why are they tied to their job? They're tied to their job because they have gotten so accustomed to their incredibly wealthy lifestyle, right? That they cannot transition out of it easily. And there's not a lot of places that pay those salary ranges for the work that they do, right? Relative to these big Silicon Valley companies, right? So the author says, focus less, break free from being an employee, be an employer of yourself. Even if you do technically work for someone else, think of it as you contracting out your services to that other company so that you can make income from that, so that you don't feel tied down to that company, so that you can make a contract with a different company if it comes down to it, right? If you don't like the deal that they give you anymore. And to further break free from the golden handcuffs, the best way to do that is to increase your value in the marketplace, right? So in the Silicon Valley space, in the tech space, right, there was there's an individual called Sam Altman, right? And he was working with OpenAI, and he got kicked out of his company. And what happened there is that all the high value AI startup individuals who were just like, we're the brains of the operation, we understand how this company works, they came together as a collective, and they said, you can't hire people like us. There's no one like us in the world currently at this time. So if you don't bring back our boss, we'll quit, right? And usually, conventionally, when a bunch of employees come together and say, "Oh, we have this ultimatum. Give us this ultimatum," they'll fire them, right? But here, this just group of researchers primarily were like, if you don't give us what we want, we'll quit, and your company's going to be insolvent, right? And there, the only reason why they were able to leverage that like that is because they had value, right? You need to have value, and you need to increase your value in the marketplace so that you have leverage over the person you're contracting to or your employer, right? So then, continuing on with the entrepreneurship idea, he lists again a lot of ideas about like starting business and the various ways you can start business, right? And the various sectors you can start business in, like production for like manufacturing, or whether it's like a service-based business, right? Like he talked about how like doctors might start their own clinical practice because, right, that's a service that they provide, and there are just different categories of business. And then the last big idea here is raising capital, right? And capital isn't just money, right? It's the tools you need to do your business. It's the tools you need to continue your business, right? And there's ideas like mental capital, there's the physical capital, like the equipment, right? But you as an individual need to raise capital, and you need to be aware of the kinds of capital that are available, not just like monetary, you get money from a bank. And again, here he lists various sources you could get capital from, like whether you start a joint ventureship, or whether you have money from your savings, or you get money from your family, right? So going on to the next slide, I'm continuing on this idea of entrepreneurship, and I just listed a couple of the big ideas that I like, that I feel like were a bit unique to this book, right? So first, this idea of a feasibility study, right? So oftentimes people start a business without actually doing a feasibility study. And the purpose of a feasibility study is to figure out, is this actually something I can make money from, right? And not just is this something I can make money from, but is my return worth the time and effort I put into it, right? So you start with the your executive summary, just like a summary of all the things that entail in the business. Then you move into like your product orientated, where you basically see like, okay, what is my product? What is my service? What am I providing? What value does this item have? And what other things relative to it have value, right? Then it's financial and operational, where you get into like the logistics, like, okay, I'm gonna need this money for this many people across this many months, right? And then lastly, this idea I love is an exit strategy. So many people focus on, if they do a feasibility study vaguely, they focus on the first three. When you have an exit strategy, how do you make out with your money? For example, like for a lot of startups, right? A lot of tech startups, the exit strategy there is they will sell their company to some larger established company and make millions off of that, instead of focusing on actually running the company, right? But it's this idea that, how do you get your money out? How do you get your value out? Because whenever a bank lends you money, they have an exit strategy, right? But do you have an exit strategy for your business? Additionally, he talks about like bookkeeping, just like the different categories of assets, liability, capital, income, and expenses. We all know this generally, right? Additionally, choosing a bank, look at what your colleagues use, check the audits of the bank, right? Check the credit worthiness of the bank. Again, going back to this idea of the 2008 financial crisis, right? A bunch of banks went insolvent. Look at what the banks are doing and choose location, right? You don't want to have to travel far to put money into a bank just for like the physical day-to-day aspect, right? We're moving into primarily digital space now. So the location is less dependent now. So going on to this idea of marketing, right? Marketing is another idea that a lot of people don't invest a lot of money into, right? And or they do it a bit wrong, right? You need to very effectively like publicize your product. You need to know about your product, right? You need to be able to price it correctly because sometimes people want to get something, but it won't be the price you think it's worth is not the price the customer thinks it's worth. And the only price that truly matters is that price that the most the customer is willing to pay, right? Additionally, there's just the idea of like packaging, the benefits from the product that the customer sees, or you might see a benefit that the customer doesn't. And if the customer doesn't see the benefit, they're not buying that item. And there's also the ideas of like the pricing, the promotion, and the place, right? Those the 4 Ps to marketing: product, pricing, promotion, place, right? And then continuing on is the dangers of idleness, right? So this is like the last idea that I think he ends off the section with, where it's just like you want to use your time as much as possible and don't waste your time either through like opportunity costs or don't waste your time through things you could have done that you're not doing, right? So then here's the last section: success and legacy, right? So true success is the progressive achievement of your dreams and goals for your life. It's a journey, not a destination. It's a discovery of your life's purpose, right? And you need to reframe what you consider success so that you can further develop yourself and further achieve yourself, right? Because success isn't just getting the job, isn't just retiring, isn't just going on the vacation, right? It's a continual progress, right? And it's important that you do that. Continuing on is the idea of time management, right? The inability to manage time can cause a lot of like discomfort and embarrassment. And he gave this example of a politician who was retiring, and the priest just talked about how the politician had come the first time he had come to the confessional and talked about all this embarrassing things the politician had done. But it was because the priest just had to keep talking to cover time for the politician, right? But it's being aware of like where you can invest your time, where you can invest your resources. And going on investing your resources, it's the idea of like goal setting, right? Because goal setting does 3 important things for you, right? First, it sets focus for like your time and your resources, right? It gives you discipline because it gives you a measure to hold yourself to. And then the last thing is that it gives you a measure for the actual success of your results. Because sometimes you might not reach, if you did not set a goal, you might not have gone as far. You might not have pushed yourself as far to go as far. There's also this idea of like, what is your problem, right? Problems are often viewed as like inconveniences, but they should be seen more as opportunities, right? Because here they give you a measure of what you are capable, right? Problems are inevitable, but they are solvable and they can be beneficial if you overcome them and create a situation for yourself long term, right? And there are 3 categories of problems, right? There's potential problems, there are perceived problems that may or may not be there, and then there are the actual real problems like short term immediate threats. And then lastly, he ends it off with this legacy section, right? You need to plan for your retirement. Going back to this investment mentality, you have to start early, right? Investing, if you invest for 20 years, when you start at 20, right, you can get your dividends back at 40. But if you start investing at 40, you get your dividends back at 60. By that time, right, you have putting in those resources, you might have more obligations, you might have more things holding you back, right? So it's very important to start early investment for your retirement. Identify your future needs long term, and additionally, most importantly, write a will so that in case something happens to you, your money is spread out properly the way you want it to. Additionally, he focuses on like ideas for wealth preservation and how you need to focus on assets and not just like, I have this much money in a bank account. Like, do you have your 401k? Do you have these stocks invested in? And diversify your streams of income so that you can have more money for yourself long term. And then the last big idea I liked from the book was just this idea that health is wealth, right? Exercise is a profit for yourself, and you are the one asset you have the most control over, and you need to take care of that asset so that you can enjoy the fruits of your labor whenever you're older. So I think that is my presentation, and I want to thank everyone for your time.
Thank you.
Wow,
Okay.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank,
Uh,
thank you a lot. Thank you, Cheryl, for the presentation. It was like a magistral presentation, even if you don't read the whole book because it's a big book. I think
Yeah.
you cover it
Yeah,
thoroughly, and that's why I let you go because you were a little bit over time. But that's fine because the book was a big book. It's more than 700 pages. So thank you for the
Yeah.
presentation.
Mr.
Definitely.
Pro.
Thank you.
Was
And
awesome.
I will let other people to go and give their ideas or any takeaway that they want to share with us. But before that, I would tell that if you read the book, you could notice that he's coming from the experience side. It's not that something that he didn't do that he's just preaching, because he crossed the desert. He crossed the desert. If you follow him on online, he will tell you his life, and his life was not pretty at that time. But nowadays, he's very well off. He can take a flight of 20,000 per flight, so $20,000 per flight. So it's very rich now. So I'll let the floor open for anyone who want to come and share their ideas or any takeaway.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I
Thank
go
you very
first,
much.
actually?
Oh,
Yeah. Go
Oh,
ahead.
you just talk, sure.
yeah. No, I just have a couple things I want to say. Um, I think the book. I feel like the book could have been split into more books because it definitely felt like he was trying to pack a lot of information in the book, and there were times where it was like a lot of just like lists, right, listing things out, right, and like listing out ideas when I think like if I was writing this book or if I could rewrite the book, I would have arranged the things differently, right? Because I liked a lot of the ideas, but it felt like I was jumping back and forth. It'd be like, okay, this like wealth mentality. I'm gonna jump back to like the 200th page and go over that again, and it was that jumping back and forth. Yeah, but I think it was a really good book in that it's like a reflection of what the world, what his mindset was around the world in like that 2012, right? Because it was published May 2012, so he probably was writing it for like a year or two, right, in 2011, 2010, and it was really interesting to see like the opinions around wealth immediately after the
Mhm.
financial crisis. Okay, so I
Okay.
see the rest of my time.
Thank you. You took less than 3 minutes, so that's good. Any other person, but to come a little bit about to comment a little bit about what Cheryl just said. Don't forget it was his first book. So in the first book, there are some errors that you correct it when you are writing other books, because he wrote a lot of other books that we will have a chance to read in the future. Any
So
other? Okay,
I would like
go
to
ahead.
jump in if you allow me. First of all, thank you, Shrek, for the presentation. And like Nasip was saying, that's our second book by an African author, right? The first one was the my mom Ghost, right?
Goat.
Mhm.
Goat, my mom Goat, right? I said Ghost. Yeah, I was speaking English anyway. So coming to the book, uh, sometimes instead of trying to make an abstract, I try to put like, what is the application of that book for me? What is the
Mm-hmm.
book telling me? So question like, he talk about budget, right? He say you have to budget for your business and you have to budget for yourself investing. So we, the people who are in this club here, do we have budget? Do we live in budget for our finance? That's the kind of question, right? The book is calling. I think close to the end, talk about a will in case something happened to you, how you like your wealth or whatever you accumulate, how you want it to be distributed. Are we like, if something happened to anyone today, knowing that anything can happen to anyone anytime, right? Do all of the people who are here in this club, do we have our will? Should I talk about capital health as a capital? Are we eating healthy, exercising? So those are kind of questions when I pull from the question, I pull from the presentation. But the question for Shirel is how to increase your value when you give the example of the people who were in OpenAI and they fired the boss. But since not so many people can do what they were doing, they were able to call the boss back. So how do one can increase its own value to be so valuable that if you touch you, they know that someone is there. So that's my first question. And the second question is kind of talking about exit strategy. Because if you are building a business, you investing in something, you spend your time doing everything. If you have exit strategy, is that an open door to exit quick? Because things gonna get tough. Things gonna be difficult, like you say. But if it get difficult, is that open door that you just gonna just exit and abandon and sell it and just say, okay, anyway, it won't work. So that's my question. So how to increase your value? Is exit strategy useful? Thank you again.
Thank
Answer
you.
the question.
You spend 3 minutes.
Oh.
Yeah, you.
Okay.
Is there any other person who want to answer, or we let Cheryl to answer?
He can answer, and
Okay,
if he
go ahead.
wants, I will add something to it later.
Yeah, me too. I have few things
Yeah.
to add on it. Okay, go ahead, Cheryl.
Okay. So first, the question about increasing your value, right? I think what was really important in the example that I gave, right, is that what these people did was incredibly unique whenever it first happened, right? Because
Hmm.
the board of directors for OpenAI had fired Sam Altman, and they had basically wrote like a letter ultimatum because the research that they were doing, they were at that time the only people in the world doing it at that scale, right? Like if this situation had happened, I would argue today, I don't think they would have the leverage that they do now, right? So the really important thing is to find what is incredibly unique and find what is critical to the function of the business, right? Because they're willing to replace people who are replaceable, right? If you can replace an easily replaceable part, you'll replace it. But if that
What is
part
making that
isn't
noise?
easily replaceable,
Maybe beyond.
no, it's not. Is it beyond? No. Okay.
It stopped now.
Yeah.
Maybe should I give yourself?
Maybe it might be
Maybe you're
me.
moving.
Maybe I don't know. But
Okay.
yeah, be unique. That is what I'd say is increasing your value. And for the exit strategy, it's not so much you sell the business, it's more what do you do when you if you want to retire, right? That's what I would say think of exit strategy as because
Okay.
if you want to retire, eventually you're going to retire, right? Even if you have this big business. And your exit strategy isn't just like, "Oh, I'm leaving." It's more like what do I want this business to be when I'm done with it, right? Because a lot of businesses, to be honest, will fail, right? So you need to have a plan in case, like, okay, where do I want to extract value so that I can make my next big business, right? That's what I would say is the exit strategy thing, right? Because for like a lot of small scale businesses, right? You don't need like a crazy fancy plan, but it's more like, okay, I'll sell this oven, I'll sell this part of I'll sell this service, I'll have this clause in this contract to help me out, right? But just think of yourself in case things go belly up. That's what I would say is the exit strategy question.
Plan B.
Plan B, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
And Chalman, you want to go ahead? Go.
Yes, okay. He said exactly what the guy was talking about. And when I was reading the book too, he didn't, you know, to me, he wasn't really clear about the exit strategy. I used to have the same feelings as Fred Thomas about exit strategy until was that guy Tony Robbins explained it to me. I even asked him the question directly while he was talking about burning the boat and at the same time creating the exit strategy. It sounded to me contradictory, and he said no. If you don't create an exit strategy, you don't know whether you have succeeded or you have failed. Exit strategy, especially to be able to feel successful, you set a goal and you hit that goal and you said you are done. And that is how you can create the exit strategy. Otherwise, you keep raising the bar all the time. If, for example, Mark Zuckerberg, where he is, he has not created an exit strategy, he wouldn't feel he has succeeded. And he will keep, because the ideas will never end, he will keep having more and more as it grows. But when could you say that I've made it or I have not? It is by hitting the point where you can say that when I get at this point, I will exit this way. They said you have to having it either you want to go public or you want to sell the business or you want to redefine it and become just a chairman and then transition into other people's hand and so on. But one way or the other, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to quit the business, but you need to define your success, your point of success. Otherwise, you will never feel satisfied. So that is what I got out of. But when Cheryl was saying that it's retire, it's something like. So I do agree with that. But now the first question, where the guy said it clearly, when somebody asked him, "Where do I invest? I'm this and that. Where and what and so on," he said, "No, don't look far. Just invest in yourself." Invest in yourself and you will have all the other possible idea ways you can go, what you can do next to be satisfied in life. So investing in oneself is what we are already doing, and we should all admit that it is definitely giving the fruit. We, even if we are not implementing them to the letter, but at least one way or the other it is touching our life. And I have to thank Fred Thomas for some of his points regarding budgets and will. They are very important things that I always overlook, and I'm, surely working on it. And to close, I said thank you very much to Shirel for such a wonderful presentation. The book was so huge, I wasn't able to finish it, but thanks to him, I have had an idea of the latter part of it, and I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
No problem.
That was good.
So
You spent
I
only 4 minutes.
want to say a
Thank you.
few words.
We
I,
can't
first,
hear. We can't hear you.
go ahead. I will.
No, we are listening to you, but your voice
Are
is
we
shocking.
clear?
Okay. Yeah, I don't know why it's doing that today, but I want to thank Shura for the great presentation. The book is a big book. My takeaway, beside the history of money, how people put value into money, the big takeaway for me is a lot of the thing that you say in the last part about investing, entrepreneurship. Don't put your money, your asset into one basket. Diversify your incomes, so when one goes wrong, you still have one, at least one coming in, and investing in yourself, right? And the last part you said is health is a wealth, right? So that is a big takeaway for me, because we will invest the money into the market. We will have all this million, but if we are sick and spending all this money in the hospital, we are not going to enjoy the fruits of our labor, right? So let's take care of ourselves. Let try to eat better, exercise more, and do our yearly checkup. It's important that we know how our body is. We don't want to be having health issues. Sometimes you have a hypertension and it's there, and you don't even know, and you don't even go check your health, right? And years later, they notice that, oh, you already have a kidney disease because of the hypertension that is silent there, or you already have heart disease because of the hypertension. So let not forget ourselves. Let go to do our checkup yearly, at least one time. Let go give that money to the doctor and see how our body is doing. And that's my takeaway from this book. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
It was very, very short and quick. That's good. Do we have any other person in the team? I think Beyond hasn't spoken yet. Beyond, you want to go ahead?
Okay, I'll go ahead. First, I want to thank Shrub for the great presentation. And one part that caught my attention was comparing the acquisition of money to the stages of civilization in human history. That's all.
All right. Thank you.
Really?
As usual.
No,
We all know.
no,
We want more than that.
we want more.
Let's do 10 seconds. Leon, say something more. What is your takeaway? Leon, what is your takeaway? Like two takeaway from the presentation.
Like
Go ahead.
building a plan of entry and exiting, and
Hey, Fred Thomas, don't force him.
We'll come back to you.
Yeah.
Think about it. We're coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So definitely this
But
book.
what does he like about the book? Does he like it or dislike it?
Beyond.
What do you like
or
about the
dislike
book?
the book?
What are
What's
your
your opinion on the
impressions
book?
when it comes to your opinion?
Okay, to be honest, I didn't read the book.
Did you listen to Shurel?
Yes.
Okay, we'll come back to you, Leon.
Okay.
Yeah. Can I go actually?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, there's I mentioned at like the start of the presentation, but like I think my favorite idea from the book was this idea that wealth is not money. And I think we all get too like caught up in the number value of things, right? And when it's not even like, oh, wealth is like the spiritual wealth or like the people you have, but more just like you have assets, right? You have physical things that hold value. And if you it reminded me back to this idea I had whenever I would go to university, right? And I would be in the parking lot, I would look around and I would see all these cars. And I would like think to myself, like, there has to be at least $1 million on concrete right now, right? And it's just like sitting here, right? And we spend so much money on things like our cars, our houses, right? Like if you could go around with your eyes and like have like a little scanner that showed you the dollar value, right? There is so much money everywhere, right? And everyone gets like too caught up with like the check or like the number on their bank account, right? And you can find value in those things without getting too caught up on the numbers themselves. So yeah.
Okay.
Thank
So,
you.
Great.
okay, but
Yeah,
I
that was
don't,
definitely
yeah,
good.
I would like to before Nasif, I don't agree with you that wealth is not money. Wealth has money on many forms. That's what I would say. If we like generally talking, like money might be in terms of gold, diamond, right? Mine, paper, bill, a house, a car, all of that,
The
possession,
notes.
right? Many
Yeah.
types. Now, a few people only in this world, like some religious people that have vocation to be poor, and they don't value too much having money in their own bank account. But it's just a few people. If you take the Fulani in Africa, they don't have money at the bank, but their wealth is how many cows,
Their
the
own.
head count that they have. In some other civilization, is how many kids you have. That's your wealth, right? Maybe in those situations. But again, if you have so many kids, you need some money to feed them. You have to have more land. You have to have some acquisition to be able to take care of the people that you care about. Just to, but that's what I think from the wealth situation. And without money, so many things are very, very, very difficult to do in this world. Now, before I finish, quick on column presentation, when you talk about health check and all of that, so we all know if you have like health insurance, you pay copay, whatever is expensive, right? But if you don't have healthcare, just go to Walmart, for example. They do blood tests, they'll do sugar, IC1 and stuff. Sometimes it's $10, $12 is way cheaper. Just to put that one out, if you don't have health insurance and you go to do the test, is way cheaper, and we can still do our health check because our health is the first wealth, right? So again, just to add that to your presentation or your talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you.
Yeah, let me quickly go around all this point that I was writing here. First of all, I want to point out the members who are very, very young. You have to thank your parents. Why? Because what you are reading now is you are increasing your value without knowing. You are doing it without, we just missed the boat at your age, but we are trying to get there. So definitely you have to be very, 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 very grateful to your parents by putting you into this type of club. And to increase our value, I think this club is already doing that, as Fred Chalaman was saying. And also, anything that you are doing, try to specialize yourself in that thing. If you are an accountant, don't be lower accountant. Try to be a little bit higher. Because when you are higher, they are very, very afraid to fire you. If you are a nurse, try to be a specialized nurse. If you are so and so, try to, so you are increasing your value by being specialized in that field. And the exit strategy that Fred Thomas was asking, yes, the exit strategy could be understood in two different ways. If your target is to reach 100, and before 100, you are already thinking about exit strategy, it means that you are failing. But what will happen when you reach 100 and you didn't have anything set up to know that, yes, when you reach 100, you will do so and so. When I reach 100, I will sell my company and to take care how to start traveling. Or when I reach 100, I will divide the company into two and give one to my son and give one to my daughter. So it's your exit strategy. So until you reach your goal that you set up when you are starting the business or when you're starting the entrepreneurship, at, at that moment, I think the exit strategy will have all its value, is what I got from the book is the trying to learn from your failure as well. Trying to learn from your failure, because most of the time we tend to be very very annoyed when we fail, but it's kind of a learning strategy, but we forget about that one. And what make me very very laughing, and even I shared that story with my wife, she was just laughing. It was the professor who brought the cadaver into the lab and for all the students to taste the I mean the yash, I should say. I don't want to say those kind of. And then he said the first thing in medicine is the observation. You were not observing me. I put another finger in and I licked another. So it's very important that we are very very observant, and I like that, because when you are observant anywhere, you cannot feel bored, you cannot feel annoyed. You are already present there, which is very very important. On that, I think this book is a kind of a reference book for us, and what we are doing is not that we have to remember all the books that we are having, but at least if you remember a challenge that's solved by one book, you can quickly go back to that book and get the information from it, which is very, very important and is what we are doing. On that, if no one wants to add anything on it, we'll start talking about the next meeting. Any addition?
We're good over here.
All right.
Good.
That's
Yeah,
good then.
I thought of that too today when you said that the young ones should thank their parents, and I said that I really envy the Hundekon's family.
Yeah.
That's a family of four, and we
Yeah.
are that, and then my Ngamba and the and the family are all missing in action today. I say, oh come on, this is a very good book that I really wish these people are around to share
Yeah,
the
yeah,
information
definitely.
with me, and but I don't know why
No,
they are missing.
yeah,
Okay,
and
I hope it's for a good reason.
yeah, and also we have a way to save this conversation for the
Yeah.
posterity. So if they want, they can go back to it. Because when you quickly go back to the books, you say, "Oh my goodness, we already read 77 books.
Yeah.
77 books is a lot."
Yeah.
Wow. It's a lot.
Yeah, it's 75. Sorry, 70. No,
No,
76 today.
76.
76
We'll go
today.
to, yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. So it's really, really, we cannot pretend that we remember all this book, but at least it's changing our mindset. When I want to do
Definitely.
something now, I quickly go back to the how to manage my time and say, is it worth it to do it, or I should
Hmm.
stop it? Because before I might get
Even
down.
last week, I said that to
Yeah,
Thomas.
yeah,
Are you using your time wisely now?
yeah. It's a
And
Is it a right
Is it
use
the
of my
best
time?
way I could
yeah,
be? I'm using
he said
that
no
question
and tell
all
him
the time.
often
yeah.
when to do what he has to do.
Definitely,
Yeah,
it has changed me,
So
because before I
definitely.
might want to do something. I'll say, "Oh, let me quickly go downstairs and do the thing and come back." And I say, "Why should I do that? Just put it aside near the stairs, and when you are going downstairs, you take that thing and do it together, and it save your time already." So yeah, definitely is helping us. So
Yeah.
thank you for those
one
who
thing
assist today.
I'm doing from this is the budget. I'm sticking to my budget.
Yeah,
Now my refrigerator is not full anymore.
It's empty. That's it.
It's empty.
Wow.
It gets full
I
only
love that.
Saturday or Sunday when I cook for the week. And
that's
by the
good.
end of the week, It's empty.
That's good.
So
That, that's
Awesome.
that's good. Yeah, for the budget
uh,
is sometimes difficult, but there are several ways to do the budget. There are envelope way. Envelope means
Mm-hmm.
that you set up one amount for something, and when you start using that amount till you finish that envelope, that's it. You say there's no
that's
more
it.
money for this month. I'll wait for the next month. So there
Next
are
month,
there
yeah.
are, there are different, but usually I don't feel that African necessarily need budget because we are already frugal. We are already frugal and we know how to save our money. But if you add the budget, it will be the best. I know that, but
I did
we
add
don't overspend most of the time. So that's true. All right,
Great.
next meeting it will be my turn, and the book's
it.
title is Main Street Millionaire by Cody Sanchez. On that, we are
Yeah.
finishing on
Okay, and I
time
will be present.
10 10 or 10, yeah, it's 10 p.m.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
And
Thank
who
you.
All right.
who is introducing you on
Me,
next week?
Yeah,
I
Pastor
will
Colum, yeah.
Colum.
introduce
Awesome.
the room.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Have you
Thank,
guys noticed that there were two books which are the School of Money, exactly the same title, the same introductory phrase? Because the one that is on
No, it's the same.
is it the same book
What?
but different
Yeah. Which
author?
line? Because you have it again. Where is located?
Yes, I can show it to you right now. Different
What
author.
line?
No,
What is
not
the line?
oh no, I got it from Amazon.
Oh, you mean like
Yeah.
there's another book with
oh,
the same
okay,
name, right?
okay.
With
Yeah.
the same
Yeah. Okay. Let me just
It's not
share
the same
it
author.
on
It's the same
our
name.
Oh, sometimes
show it
different
to me.
author use the same title, so you have to
and
be
The
same
same
very
title,
The
title.
same title.
same introductory phrase. It is on Amazon. I hesitated a little bit, but I asked Christelle. She said no, it was not the same, and I said okay, fine. But it was very surprising that it's
Is it the same
yeah.
author?
No, how did they manage for it to be a different author? I don't know. I
No.
it
You can use any title. The title doesn't belong to
ah
anyone. You can use
really
any. Yeah, yeah. You can use,
okay.
and people
But
even.
it's not here.
Look at I sent it to
Let
our
me see.
club. You can look
Okay.
at it and see how it is. It's totally different and written by
Okay,
a
we'll take
different
a look.
author
Yeah.
and
Okay,
then
we'll take a look.
commented by a different one. I nearly purchased it from Audible, but I said no, this is not the Olumide or something
Mm-hmm.
Emmanuel. Yeah.
No. People do that, and people with AI now, they just take the best title, go to AI, write it,
And write
and
it
yeah,
again.
even they don't use their own word, their own
Hmm.
name. They might use I mean another, or sometimes they will use the real author and change
Hmm.
the middle name.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
Wow.
Okay.
All
So
right,
Oh,
guys.
we'll talk
thank
next
you.
week.
Bye bye.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
Thank
Have
you
a
night.
good
very much,
night.
guys. Yeah.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.